Hi, this is your Swapnil Bhartiya, and we are here at KubeCon and Cloud EduCon in Atlanta. And today we have with us Jena White, software developer and co-founder of Jena LLC and a member of CNCF Deaf and Hard of Hearing Working Group. Jenna, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much.
If I ask you, first of all, KubeCon or Linux Foundation events are really very warm, very welcoming. This is the only tech show where I bring my kids, my family, and everybody feels welcome. So I want to hear from you, what has been your first impression of this show?
Well, so it's funny you asked me that. So on Monday, it wasn't the first day of KubeCon, but there were co-located events happening. And someone in the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Working Group asked me what I thought at the end of the day. And my only response was big. And I hadn't even been in the exhibit hall yet. And all I could think of was, it is so big. My impression has changed over the course of the last 2-3 days. But my first impression was big, and that was the final impression.
And is this your first KubeCon?
It is. It is my first tech conference of any type.
I would love to talk about your own journey. You, as you said, you're a software developer. You're also co-founder of a startup. When did you get excited about technology and why?
So I've always been really good with computers my entire life. When I went into college, I decided that I wanted to do something more science and math based. And so I went that path. I worked in labs as a researcher, and then I ended up in a clinical lab. And life happens, family happens, COVID happened, and it caused me to make the decision that I needed to step back and reevaluate what I was doing because it wasn't working for me. And I needed to figure out what I was going to do next in my journey. And so I decided to step back from the clinical lab that I was working in. My mom actually mentioned to me that I should go back to computers or at least consider it because I'd always been good with them. And I found a boot camp, and the rest is history, to make a long story short.
How did you get in contact with them? How did they approach? How did this working group work out?
So I was friends with someone at home who happened to be an interpreter, and she had interpreted for the SCL or the Salt Lake City conference, and we were just friends. And so I was telling her about my process and my life and boot camp and me doing the startup. And she said, hey, I went to this conference in Salt Lake, and explained that they have a deaf and hard of hearing working group. And I was really fascinated by that. And her experience, her comments about the conference, and also the working group, which meets on Zoom every month. And so the next day, I did a little bit more research on my own and fell into this entire world. So it was really a friend at home who mentioned this. Were there any other parts of your question that you wanted me to answer?
We have made so many advancements in technology. Do you sometimes feel that yes, more should be done, or you feel that because of whether it's translation, live speech, that you can get whatever you want to get done, whether it's a Zoom meeting, whether it's a call, you don't feel limited or restricted, or you feel there is a gap that needs to be fulfilled?
No, okay. So there's always going to be limitations. But to be brutally honest, this experience with this organization has been the most accessible experience I've ever had. I went into school with interpreters growing up. I went to doctor's appointments with interpreters and all these different things. And I've had good, bad, and other experiences. This experience here, we have a WhatsApp group where I can talk with the interpreters here. We have 8 interpreters on the team. And I had mentioned that I was going to do this, the presentation, the keynotes already have interpreters set. I went to a job interview yesterday, actually, and they said, great, we'll send an interpreter. We have interpreters ready. I don't have to work out the logistics of that. They are already available to me, which has been a fantastic experience. It's been really nice. I mean, there's always limitations, right? So like for the keynote, because of the size of the audience, it's a very big room and the screens are very, very big. It would be really nice to have, and it's nice that we do have the picture-in-picture of the interpreter and then the captions right next to it. But because of where we are sitting for the reserved seating for access, it's a little problematic just because the visual lines aren't where they need to be. And they're very willing to work with us, but there are always limitations. And so we're trying to improve that, and they've been working with us to improve that. So that has been a phenomenal experience.
Can AI, you feel, help with interpretation so that while yes, there are folks who can help you, but then you become more independent. You don't really have to reach out to interpreter. Are you seeing any improvement?
Not yet, and I don't believe that's going to be happening anytime soon. Right now, there is an SLR, a sign language recognition project happening, but it is very behind as compared to English or spoken English translation services that use AI. So I don't see it happening soon, eventually perhaps, but the problem with AI is the human emotional content is not there. So for example, if my family has an emergency, a child is hurt, they are taken to the emergency room, AI unfortunately can't be there for that. You really need to have a live interpreter to be able to manage the communication flow with the doctor's concerns and the parents' concerns and the child's experience. There are so many different situations where AI isn't an appropriate solution. Perhaps in a college class or a educational setting, or maybe for a business owner, that might be an appropriate use case for AI in that particular scenario. But there are a lot of other use cases where it isn't appropriate.
You mentioned earlier that you had WhatsApp group where you talked to other members, but here I think you met them for the first time. How was the experience?
So in deaf culture is a little bit different than the mainstream hearing culture is what we call it, people who can speak and hear. So over the last few months, our community is so small. We also know each other's friends or family, or I might actually already know those individuals personally. And so for us, when you meet a person, it almost feels like you're already friends. And via Zoom, we can see your face and see you signing. And it's not the same as being in person, but it is a step closer so that when you actually meet in real life, you hug and it feels like you're old friends and there's no awkwardness involved. Deaf culture is very open, very welcoming, and just very friendly. It's really hard to describe. But when I got here, I felt we had already been friends.
Now, this group is part of Merge Forward. What is Merge Forward and how does it connect to the work you are doing?
Okay, well, Merge Forward is a new initiative under CNCF. CNCF is community-based and community-owned. So Merge Forward tries to encourage more attention and more inclusion for people who have been historically underrepresented. There are 7 groups in Merge Forward. Deaf and hard of hearing is the most established group. However, we are trying to encourage other groups to start organizing. So we have the deaf and hard of hearing group. We also have a blind and visually impaired group. There is Deep Roots as another group, and that is focused on individuals who are Black, Indigenous, or people of color. We also have a neurodivergency group. And so there are 7 groups in total. We are trying to encourage people to reach out because we can provide support and there's documentation. We have best practices if you need help with that. There's networking opportunities. And so Merge Forward is a really wonderful initiative. Catherine Pangiani works for Buoyant, and she is the lead of Merge Forward, and she has been a fantastic, fantastic resource.
She has been doing a great job in this space. It's incredible what she's doing. She should get a lot of kudos for what she's doing. Can you talk about what is the main goal of the group and how can other communities get involved or support it?
The goal of the deaf and hard of hearing group is to work together to promote inclusivity and information and resource sharing, that we have these resources available for people and increasing awareness. We reach out to each other via a Slack channel specifically for Merge Forward. So if that's something you were interested in, you are welcome to add yourself to that Slack channel.
When it comes to support, like you said you are a software developer, but you are also founder of a startup. how challenging is it for people to start, to become entrepreneur? Because the challenges of being leader of a company is different than being an employee. Because as an employee, you have to, a lot of companies, they provide resources, they have accessibility, but when you're starting your own company, you have to build that. You are interacting with potential partners, potential client who may not understand these pain points. So can this working group also expand beyond that to enable people to become entrepreneurs?
All right. To be honest, the job market is a difficult place to be. I haven't actually had an opportunity to work for any well-known companies or any well-established companies, unfortunately. I've been working for small companies. And unfortunately, it wasn't a great experience. So compared to that, after meeting and working with the two people that I've founded the business with, those two individuals have a lot of experience in larger companies, and most of those were deaf-owned companies, but we have similar passions, similar ideas. And so the three of us decided to go ahead and found the startup because we don't need a large company telling us how to set up our own initiatives or our own work. And before we decided to actually found the company, one person was my actual supervisor and the other one was my mentor. And we all decided to take the leap and start our business. But really, I can't tell you any challenges that are different between the two, unfortunately.
Since you're trying to build your own startup, what message do you have for others, how they can navigate through those challenges? And when there is no path, make your own path.
Oh, there have been a lot of challenges. But first, you just have to persevere.
Right.
There is no one way to make things happen. There are a lot of paths that you can try to be successful, and there are other people who can be involved. There's not one answer to anything. And so when you fail in one area, that's okay. You just need to move on to your next option or your next path. And, you might try something for a little while and decide to pivot, but make sure that you are, and even if you do fail at something, you are not wasting time, because you are going to work towards the actual solution. And there are a variety of different paths that can get there, and it does take time. You try different solutions that you think might work, and you proceed with that for as long as you can. And if that doesn't seem successful, it's not a waste of your time. You just need to move on to another attempt or another approach. So that mentality has worked well for me, but I have experienced a lot of setbacks, but those setbacks are not the end of the world.
Now, those who are watching this interview and who do care about accessibility and inclusion, especially the open source, but despite their support, they don't know how they can help, how they can contribute. So what can they do?
So far from what I have seen from the deaf and hard of hearing working group, many of them have worked for a very long time, and they know people and they know companies and they know what not to do, right? But the most important thing, I think, is to speak up, right? So Rob Koch is kind of the more well-known individual from this working group, and he has been so supportive, very inclusive, and he has taught me so much. All I have to do is say something, and then he sends me a ton of resources. And so he doesn't hold back. He just shares his knowledge, and he really wants to support us, because deaf people can absolutely work in technology without any issue. We just have to build each other up, and so when I mention something, he sends me whatever I need. And it's been phenomenal.
I think I got most of what I wanted to talk to you. Is there anything else that you're like, hey, Swapnil, this is really critical, this is important, let's talk about that as well? Or you feel that we have covered some of the basic points that you want to talk about today?
I just want to be honest. I'm very new to the tech world in general, not just KubeCon, but everything. And at first I was so scared to come. But Catherine was saying, no, you need to come. I was like, no, I'm too new. I don't belong yet. And she said, you do belong. From the first day that you started your class and you were trying to work towards tech, come and learn. Discover how this group functions and how we support each other. I mean, it's a really unique group within CNCF. And then, I'm going home tomorrow, but I feel like I have a huge toolbox that I can take home and be able to apply to my company and share with my business partners. And I can say, look at all the things we could do. Before I was just like, okay, well, I have one or two things that I can add to our idea bucket. But right now I'm like, hey, I've got so many new ideas that I can personally do, right? I got a job interview yesterday, right? I've had an opportunity to network with more people. And previously, I didn't feel that confident, but I'm going home so much more confident than I was. And even though I'm new, I never got the feeling that I didn't belong here. So new or old or many years in or a novice, this is something that you should get involved with.
I will actually look at it from a different perspective, which is that it's less about you benefiting from them. You may have so many great ideas that you may actually, benefit. So it's more important for you because they may not even have thought about that. So you can bring a lot of valuable insights and actually make things better for the rest of the world. So I actually look at it in the opposite direction.
You're right. And it's not just for the deaf and hard of hearing group, it's any group, right? So any group of people who are underrepresented in tech, reaching out to them and seeing what those people have as far as their perspective, people with hearing loss, vision loss, people who are blind, what are their accessibility needs? And it doesn't interrupt anything, right? Like it actually makes it better for everybody involved.
Jenna, thank you so much for taking time out today. Sit down, talk about your journey, your story, the work Catherine is doing, team is doing, the CNCF Linux Foundation, awesome place to start initiative like that. But as I said, next time when we sit down, I want to talk more about the company and the work you're doing. But I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.